in further discussions with Hawaiian Electric, they wanted to be sure that a communication got out well on this. So Ms. Zelko's before us today to give a quick update.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Jennifer Zelko. I'm the Director of Government and Community Affairs for Hawaiian Electric. I am here to provide an update about Hawaii Island's electric bills. And this pandemic, as we know, has created a lot of issues across our communities. Families are struggling, and we're seeing the higher costs of basic needs like food increase. And unfortunately, electric bills are not immune to what we're seeing across the board. So as we're watching this terrible situation unfold in Ukraine, it has created great instability in the world energy market. We're seeing the cost of goods and services go up. We are certainly seeing that at the gas pump. And unfortunately, when oil prices go up, so do electric bills. We did go out recently to customers in the community, and we forecasted that we were looking at bills increasing about up to 20% over the next couple of months. Our energy portfolio on Hawaii Island is a diverse mix of renewable and traditional resources. And this mix and the location of the resources, as shown on this map, is very important to the reliability and resilience for Hawaii Island. At the end of 2021, 60% of the energy generated on Hawaii Island came from renewable resources like wind, solar, hydro, and geothermal. So the question becomes, how come you guys are at 60% renewable and yet you're forecasting bills to increase with the cost of oil? And the short answer is that we are purchasing energy from 4 independent power producers, and part of the contract is tied to the avoided cost of oil. Those facilities are circled on this map. We have Hawaiʻi Renewable Development, it's a wind farm up north. We have the Tahiri Wind Farm down south, and the Wailuku River Hydro and Puna Geothermal Venture on the east side of Hawaii Island. And I'll go over it a bit more on the next slide. But as the price of oil goes up, so does the amount we pay these 4 independent power producers currently. The current contracts call for that. We purchase over 50% of the energy generated on this island. And you'll see that on the right side of the screen under purchase power. These are facilities. Now, some are not online, and one is actually not approved yet, but we put it there to just show these are facilities that we have contracts with or proposed contracts. On the left side are the facilities that Hawaiian Electric owns and operates. Hawaiian Electric buys power from independent power producers through long-term power contracts. So why the 4 triangles for Hawaiʻi Renewable Development, Puna Geothermal, Tahiri, and Wailuku? All 4 of these were negotiated and entered into in the 1990s and 2000s. Now, why is that important? It's important because the world saw the energy crisis in the 70s, and out of that, in 1978, the government passed a law to help incentivize folks, developers, to get out of fossil fuel and into renewable energy, and required utilities entering into contracts with renewable energy producers to pay them at the cost, the avoided cost of oil. So for example, let's say you have a facility you're purchasing power from and they're a wind farm and they're at 13 cents. It will be 13 cents until the avoided cost of oil is 19 cents. They get the additional 6 cents. All 4 of these currently are in contracts that are tied again to the avoided cost of oil. The question will be, well, why are you still under these contracts? Part of that is because you have to have 2 parties to agree to modify a contract. We did ask these 4 independent power producers in 2012 when we saw the price of oil go high because of Fukushima and what happened in Japan. We asked again in 2016 when actually the cost of oil was quite low to modify. At that time, we couldn't come to an agreement. But I do have some good news. So it's not going to all be bad today, because at least for 2 of these, independent power producers, we have at least negotiated a new contract because either they expired or they agreed with us to change the structure of their contract. As of Q4, and this sort of shows why you see the up and down with electric rates, as of Q4 2021, over 50% of your monthly bill is related directly to the cost of generation, both fuel and the renewable energy purchase power. And this number will lower as we get additional renewable resources on that are at fixed rates, that are not going to go up and down as we see oil go up and down. The percentage of that will change in bills, and you should see a much flatter line. And in a second here, I'll show you how the rates have gone up and down. Hawaiian Electric makes no profit on fuel or purchasing of renewable energy. As it goes up, it does not affect the bottom line. So I wanted to make that point here. This is a slide that shows the price of oil, or actually our electric price from 2008 until March of this year. And if you look, you can track some of the national and international crises that we were going through. In 2008, you saw oil go up quite a bit. In 2012, again, after the Japan emergency with Fukushima, oil was very high. In the beginning of the pandemic, and if you look at 2020, the price of a barrel of oil was $18. And we have seen it shoot up to 120 over the last couple of months. I think it's just under $100 now. But you do see the volatility with this chart. So where are we, and what is the good news? Again, the two existing contracts that we have still tied to the avoided cost of oil. Tahiri Wind Farm down south, that contract is it doesn't expire until 2027. We again did ask them in 2012 and again in 2016. Last week we sent another letter asking if they would consider delinking their contract from the price of oil. Wailuku River Hydro, their contract expires next year. That allows us to renegotiate with them and again be off that cost of oil. Filed with our Public Utilities Commission, Hawaii Renewable Development in the North Kohala District. They expired, that contract expired last year. It allowed us to renegotiate and take that contract off of the cost of oil, and that was filed last December. So that'll go through the Public Utilities Commission process. Huhonua, which is the proposed biomass plant in Pepe'ekeo, that was filed in 2017. That is also not tied to the cost of oil. And I should make it clear if I didn't earlier, every renewable energy contract since 2009, when that law I mentioned from 1978 changed, it changed in 2009, none of them have been tied to the avoided cost of oil. The PUC did approve 2 of the PV plus battery projects. You can see one as you come down the Waikoloa Road on the left-hand side. Those are in the design and construction phase. Again, not tied to the cost of oil. Puna Geothermal Venture, we did get some good news last week. It's a first step. Their new contract for 46 megawatts, all not tied to the cost of oil. And then future projects, and I think we mentioned this the last time, we do have Hawaii Island Stage 3. That's our next procurement of renewable energy. And then shared solar, which I think the press release went out today. We've launched that this month, and it allows subscriber organizations to provide benefits to people who normally can't put PV on their roof. They might be a renter. So really focused on the low to moderate income folks with that particular program. And then lastly, before I finish, we can open up to questions. We are here to help. I think part of what we're trying to do is get out to the community early to really encourage people to conserve energy and look at energy efficiency in their homes and businesses so that they can prepare. Hawaii Energy is the expert resource on this, and they will be partnering with us as we go around to different organizations. If there are organizations or associations in your districts that you would recommend we talk to, or if we could come along, we're happy to come. And again, Hawaii Energy has told us they were happy to come along with us as well. We do also have tips that I can provide to your offices, different things for businesses and homes about conserving energy. if you think that would help. And then lastly, just as we did during the pandemic, we are here to help the customers. We do have payment plans, interest-free, that go over 12 months to try to ease some of the burden. We also can provide information about resources that are available. And I was so happy to see the front page article on Sunday about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program and that second tranche of money that will be coming down to help folks. And I think that runs through 2025. And so that's the kind of information that when folks are calling us, we can provide them with.
Does Zelko currently have any thoughts as to when we might see it start going back down, just so the public, we know the bad news, but...
Although, I mean, that's a great question. I think although we don't have a crystal ball, I think the hope was by summer we would see some relief. In some ways, last week there was good news. We had seen oil go up to $120 a barrel, and then it was down under 100. So it really was a forecast that we put out. We weren't really sure what we were going to be seeing. You generally purchase fuel 30 days out, which is why we didn't see the impact sooner, even though you could kind of see gas creep up higher. But that's part of why you don't see that happen so quickly. But I think we were hoping by summer.
There's been a lot of coverage about a request from our mayor to the governor to declare an emergency situation. I don't know if Mr. Adams, you're here to weigh in on that, but there's a couple other places here. One you've identified, the wind company agreeing to a temporary reduction or untying from the price of oil. There's looking at the potential rate of return for HECO for a short shift. There's the possibility in other areas where we utilize oil to give a tax holiday or something like that that could provide immediate relief for an emergency situation without going too far astray.
Yeah, hang on here, because again, this is about them. It's not about declarations or anything like that. So I'm listening very carefully.
Yes, yes. My question is going to circle back to the statements that you've been talking about with regard to the PUC and your negotiations with them, and how much is the process of the TPUC an actual barrier to reduction of costs for the energy payer? Is it the timeline of PUC actually a barrier at this time to respond to this emergency situation?
I was really happy to see the PGV approval last week, Councilmember Kimball. I think to me that was a really big first step. Do I wish it was sooner? For me, yes. But I do think there's a purpose for the regulatory process, and part of that, and I think we've all learned our lesson, is the community input piece. And when you see some of the projects that have been sitting there, there has been significant community opposition. And the regulatory process, like anything else, allows for communities to come together and talk. And so I don't really want to say, do I think that they should move faster? I was happy to see PGV come through. I see the savings to customers. As far as, I think you also brought up the rate of return, and I failed to mention this, but I wanted to say it. Over the last 2 years, our shareholders, HEI, have provided $4 million to households across the islands, including Kauai. Last year, $2 million we were the founding sponsor of Aloha United's Way Utility Bill Assistance Program that helped folks not just with electric bills, but also with gas, water, and sewer. And then in January of this year, we had the Kokua Fund Bill Payment Plan, or Bill Forgiveness. I want to make sure I get that right. Shareholders gave another $2 million. It went across the islands we serve, and it helped 4,800 customers on Hawaii Island. So I wanted to make sure I made that comment as well.
Thank you, Ms. Zelko. Yeah. And I agree with everything you've said. I'm also pleased to see the PGV contract go through. And I agree with your comments that the PUC holds an important role. These are people that are appointed and vetted and knowledgeable about their subject area. And the regulatory process exists for a reason. And it may not always go as quickly as we like, but there's intention behind that. So thank you. I share your comments on that. With that, Chair, I will yield my time.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Kimball.